This is Coach Andy Copelan, the head coach of the Waterdogs Lacrosse Club, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip, scores! Now with one, Bucknell scores! Hands off for Rabel, switches hands and scores!
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson!
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. I'm here with Andy Copelan, head coach of the Waterdogs Lacrosse Club, newest team joining the PLL this season. Coach Copelan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Coach, we're going to talk the Waterdogs roster you drafted recently in the upcoming PLL season, but before we do, I actually want to kind of go back to your playing experience. You were a 4-year starter with Bucknell as a midfielder, helping the Bison to 4 consecutive Patriot League titles and the program's first ever NCAA tournament berth in 2001. What were some of your favorite moments playing at Bucknell?
Yeah, I'm a proud Bucknell Bison alumni. Their current head coach right now, Frank Fedorjaka, was an assistant. He was actually the fellow who recruited me there. And all my best friends still to this day are fellow Bucknellians. And just a great balance of kind of strong academics and great athletics, and just an overall great collegiate experience. But I love Bucknell. I always will. It's kind of near and dear to my heart.
Awesome. No, that's great. And then, after your playing career, you headed to Coach Marist from 2004 to 2005, and then were an assistant at Maryland until 2008 before spending over 10 seasons with Fairfield University. Talk about what got you into coaching and how has your coaching style evolved over the years?
Yeah, so I originally went into New York. I did the whole Wall Street thing probably for, 4 or 5 months, something like that. There's kind of a herd mentality from Bucknell into the city, and I kind of fell into that. I thought that's what I wanted to do, and quickly realized it wasn't. So had kind of that pivot at 22, and again, I just referenced Coach Fedorjaka, but he had connected me with, at the time, Edgar Glasgow was the head coach at Marist, and I went there as his kind of graduate assistant. He ended up probably a month into that whole gig leaving for something else, and I got the interim head coaching tag, and we did a decent job there in year one, and ended up becoming a full-time head coach at a young ripe age there. That ultimately kind of springboarded me down to the University of Maryland when Coach Cottle was nice enough to kind of knock on the door and asked to speak with me. And then from Maryland went to Fairfield and had an 11-year career at Fairfield and loved every bit of it. And we'll continue to root for that program from afar. But yeah, I was 16 years coaching in the Division I world, and it was a great experience.
No, that's great. And, you recently stepped down as coach at Fairfield to take a job at Greenwich Country Day School. And then, a couple months later, you were hired as the first coach of the Waterdogs Lacrosse Club. Talk me through the hiring process and what kind of convinced you to make the jump to the pros.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll talk briefly just about Greenwich Country Day. So they now have a high school. So that basically is what prompted all these new hires. So they have, kind of a fully formed freshman class. And then we're going to kind of build with that freshman class all the way until it's a full high school. It's a private level that's competing in the FAA and the NEPSAC. And my wife's actually the women's coach, and I'm the boys coach, and we're all into that thing as a family. And it's funny because that it really parallels everything that's going on at the PLL level with the Waterdogs too. I'm kind of in these two parallel universes, building at both the high school and the professional level. But the PLL, kind of interview process was great. I mean, it was really thorough, met some wonderful people. I think they have outstanding leadership in that organization, and I like everything that the PLL is about, what they stand for, and how they're going about their business. So thrilled to be involved there at a fairly early stage, and hope to be around for a while.
No, that's fantastic to see those parallels, and it's awesome too to hear that you have a whole family of lacrosse coaches, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. The Copeland family's all in the Country Day, and we got 2 little ladies at home, and Kate, who's my wife, and I, we've been talking about just is it time for kind of a pivot away from the college world, just because look, those coaches grind, and they're away from their families during the summer during the recruiting process, and it made sense for a number of years, but just kind of got to the point where it felt like a pivot was appropriate, and left on great terms with Fairfield. Like I said, still really care about that school and the kids in that locker room, but it was just time for a change, and now I can kind of, scratch the itch of what I was missing at the Division I competitive level with obviously doing it at the highest level of our sport, which is the PLL. So it's all worked out really well.
No, that's great. And you had a tough challenge in your first tough challenge as head coach of the Waterdogs, drafting this roster. You recently drafted them, and what stood out to me really the most is the versatility of the players you drafted. You drafted a lot of guys who can play all over the field. We saw Connor Kelly, your first overall pick, Ben Reeves both get time on attack as well as out of the box last year with the Whip Snakes. You had some two-way middies like Kyle McClancy and Ryan Conrad. And then defenders you drafted like Brody Merrill and Brian Karolounis, who can play both close defense and LSM. Was versatility an important factor when drafting this team?
Yes. That's a great synopsis, and yes, 1,000%. I mean, one of our challenges is our game day roster is 18. So, that's you've got to be very strategic with those 18 picks. You need guys that you can kind of move around within the framework of what you're trying to do. And yeah, that was very intentional. I think the two things that kind of will define that draft class were exactly what you just mentioned, the versatility piece. And then the second part is just making sure that we have a good balance of experience and inexperience in all positions. And I think we accomplished both of those things. Yeah, no,
you mentioned the balance between, getting some young guys and some veteran leadership. You drafted some veteran leadership in Drew Snyder and Brody Merrill, both who have seen a ton of success in professional lacrosse. Speak on that importance of getting some veteran guys on this team, and what do you think Drew and Brody can really bring to the table with this Waterdogs roster?
Yeah, sure. So I said in a different interview that I did that if you kind of break down the sport of lacrosse into just all the various positional categories, you have goalie face-off, you have close defense, you have LSM, you have short stick D, midi, O-midi, and attack. Mm-hmm. And in all 7 of those categories, we took a guy that has real experience, and just a little bit older, kind of approaching their 30s, and that was very strategic. I just wanted guys who kind of knew the deal. And we're very comfortable, kind of with the responsibility that is being a part of this Waterdogs lacrosse club. I mean, there's going to be a lot of eyes on what we're doing, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a roster full of just rookies who were pretty green. Mm-hmm. So that was very strategic. And then the two gentlemen that you mentioned, so I actually recruited Drew Snyder when I was an assistant coach down at Maryland. So I've known Drew for a long time now, and he's one of my all-time favorites. And I'm really proud of the college and professional career that he's had. I think, I'm a believer that his best stuff is not behind him. I think he still has a few years left in him here, and we're going to be with him here until he decides to step aside from the sport. But he's rock solid as a person, as a teammate, as a locker room guy, as a leader. I just feel really, really strongly about Drew. And then Brody's arguably, one of the top 2-3 players ever to play the game. So, how do you not go with Brody? I mean, I just think it's instant respect, instant credibility. He'll be a coach on the field. He's very obviously well connected in the lacrosse world, but he's more. I think his value defensively is just to kind of connect the entire defense and kind of I've always been a system first guy defensively, and you need guys who have good kind of IQs about them and just understand the flow of the sport and understand the flow of how you have to play defense within a short shot clock. And we're going to lean on Brody tremendously, but I'm fired up to be in the same locker room as him, no doubt.
No, that's incredible, to have a guy of his caliber on your roster. I think, obviously it's a no-brainer. You got to draft him. Talk about, though, how hard it was to, draft just 18 guys. I know you talked to Dan Arestia, one of our contributors. How hard was it, getting it down to 18, your list? What was kind of the vetting process that you did when coming up with this list of 18? And were there any guys that, you really were considering that just didn't make the cut?
Yeah. Stopping at 18 was a real challenge. I mean, we must have realistically probably talked about 50 guys. I think we probably got close to 30 on the phone. And then it was a lot of phone calls with their former college coaches or other guys who we kind of know that have a connection to the professional world. So we just wanted to make sure that, it's that whole line about getting the right people on the bus. Like, that was critically important to us. So there definitely was an element of just character guys and team first guys. And then there was an element of, you don't necessarily want to take the best 18 individual players. You really have to try to be strategic in terms of how you want to build a team. Mm-hmm. And I kind of told you those couple variables that we put up on a pedestal there going into the draft. But yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, we sent some really good players back to their original ball clubs that we're going to have to compete against, and that's not a fun thing. But yeah, the original 6 coaches had to stop at 11 with their protected rosters, and we had to stop at 18 with this expansion draft. So it's just all part of the process.
No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, the fact that you had, you talked to, 50 guys and you got 30 on the phone, it just shows the process that you guys, went through to kind of get to this final 18. And there was one guy that made the roster, Charlie Cipriano, who a lot of people were kind of shocked you took at goaltender, because there was obviously some top goaltenders out there as well at his caliber. But not to pump my own tires, I wasn't surprised at all. I kind of predicted that you would go with Charlie. There's obviously the Fairfield connection there, but I think you've mentioned before too his past pro experience, starting for the Charlotte Hounds for 2 years, was an even better reason to draft him. So talk me through the decision to draft Charlie, and what excites you the most about coaching him again?
Yeah, well, what excites me most is I think just there's these like life moments where they kind of come full circle for you. And this is one of them for both Charlie and I. I mean, I was his college coach, and now to kind of reunite with him, whatever it is, kind of 8 years removed from that, I think it's a pretty cool storyline. But again, it was not like a loyalty thing for me to Charlie, although I obviously am loyal to all players that I've coached and their families and people that I really care about. It really, that wasn't at the crux of this thing for me. It was very objective. We wanted a guy that had experience. Charlie's had, a number of years of experience at the professional level. I mean, he was Jesse Schwartzman's backup for a few years. Then he kind of ran the show there at Charlotte for a couple of years. And, even this last year coming out of training camp, I mean, Coach Towers will tell you the same thing. It was a coin flip between him and Blaze, and they ended up going with Blaze. Blaze goes on to be, goalie of the year in the PLL. So I think there's a lot of things that point to Charlie's real talent, and I give him all the credit in the world, because regardless of whether he was the starter or he was the backup, he's always just conducted himself with the utmost professionalism, and he really loves and cares about lacrosse and his personal professional career. So we feel really good about Charlie. I think if Charlie does end up getting the nod and we kind of name him the starter, I think people will kind of understand what I'm talking about when they see this guy compete.
No, absolutely. I mean, we saw a few moments last year. If you didn't watch the MLL prior, even last year we saw Blaze go out for a few moments and Charlie step in, and the Chaos really didn't miss a beat when he was in cage. So I think it's a great choice. And going off of that too, you talk about you wanted to build a team that you guys could put on the field right now, and I think you've done that. But there obviously are some positional needs you probably still want to fill in the entry draft and college draft. Can you speak on that a little bit? What are you hoping to add, I guess, without going into too much detail, but what are you hoping to add in this entry draft and then this college draft this spring?
Sure. I think we'll just have the ability to be a little bit more specific. So, I mean, obviously, we only took one goalie, one face-off guy. I mean, we need to go ahead and grab at least one more in both of those positions, potentially two more. We only have 4 defensemen right now, so obviously that's going to be an area that we're going to have to, bulk up with 2, 3, 4 more guys. And then, one of the reasons why I kind of stopped at 4 attackmen is because you understand how many really talented senior attackmen there are in college right now, and that was one of the, I mean, look, right, we passed on Miles Thompson, you passed on Curtis Dixon. I mean, these guys are complete studs, but I didn't want to make the mistake of going down to training camp with like 10 or 12 attackmen. I don't really think that does anybody, any good. So, there was a lot of thoughtfulness that kind of went into the whole thing. But yeah, those are some areas that I think we'll have to figure out once we, figure out kind of where we fall in the whole lottery for the entry draft. And, the trade window opens here in a couple of days here. So we'll see what kind of movement there may be, up until both of those draft days. But we'll make sure that we're prepared for sure. And
then I'm not sure if you know, where are you guys drafting in the college draft? Are you drafting at 7th, or are you drafting, have they decided that yet?
Yeah, I think we have the 3rd pick in the first round, and then I think we have the first picks in rounds 2, 3, and 4. So, I mean, we feel really good about that. I mean, obviously, we'll have to go 4 for 4 there. We'll see who's available to us. I mean, obviously, if you're looking for a face-off guy, everyone's going to be, trying to strategize to try to get TD, but there's some other really good face-off guys there on the board. And then, yeah, I mean, that whole class is exceptional. So I would imagine all 7 ball clubs are really happy with their college draft picks. It's just a matter of how you plan on, kind of injecting them into your lineup and your team culture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you mentioned too about with the attack. I mean, you got, Michael Sowers, Grant Ament, Mac O'Keefe, Jeff T. I mean, you have so many guys that you guys could end up going with too there and adding another piece there. Yeah, I think you guys are going to be in pretty good shape, and this college draft is going to be really exciting to watch because there's so much talent. There's really no clear number one in my mind. A lot of people talking about Sowers and Ament, but you never know like what position these coaches, including yourself, decide to go with. So I think it's exciting. And then my final question for going into the season is you obviously have the opportunity to kind of create your own culture with the Waterdogs. What type of culture are you kind of hoping to build, and what are your expectations for year one?
Culturally, I mean, it's really important that we just have like really good people in our locker room. I mean, I know it's the whole line about how you win with people, right? I think that certainly applies in sports. It applies in business. It applies pretty much everywhere. But just like who you choose to surround yourself with and align yourself with is important to me. So that's a big part of who I want us to be culturally. And then offensively, I just want to have a really good, kind of ball movement based offense where it's not everybody just standing around looking at a guy, kind of dodge and go and try to make an exceptional individual effort. Like it's a team sport. So you have to play team offense. You need guys that can get to the rack, but then you need guys that can play away from it, and they're unselfish and they're thinking about kind of what's best for their teammate instead of what's best for themselves. And if guys can kind of play within that general, kind of, I guess, ideology there, then I think hopefully you should be able to generate some pretty high quality shots, and then you can hopefully outscore some people. And then defensively, I want us to have like a really good system. I don't know that we're going to be like super matchup conscious. I think we just need to be very good systematically. We need to kind of account for the 2 ball. Got to do a great job defending transition. I imagine everybody this year is going to look at what Coach Towers and the Chaos did last year, just really doing a good job going from defense to offense, and people are going to try to emulate that some. So, that's kind of where we're tinkering around with maybe doing a little bit more of a 2-way midi model and trying to sub a little bit less. And, we'll see here, but I really like the way that kind of the initial stages of our team has been assembled, and I think we have a lot of optionality, so that's never a bad thing.
No, definitely. I think that sounds like the right plan going into the season, and you got some key guys too, like you said, some unselfish guys like a Ben McIntosh and Wes Berg that you can really like fit in there. And I'm excited for this Waterdogs team. I'm not going to lie. So, I'm excited for what you guys get to do in year one. So, let's take a quick break here for a word from our sponsor, and then we'll go into our 5 and 5 segment. Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. We've been using Anchor for our podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place. And better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast so it sounds great and send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Better yet, they connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, so welcome back. Now it's time to go our 5 and 5. So I'm going to ask you 5 lacrosse questions and then 5 off-the-field questions. These are supposed to be more fun answers, kind of just to get to know you more as a person, as a coach. So the first one I'll go off with the lacrosse questions is, what are some pregame superstitions or routines that you have?
Hey, I don't know that I'm too superstitious. Let me think here. I mean, I guess when we were kind of going through like some win streaks here, you know, collegiately, I mean, your wardrobe consistency kind of became, you know, a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not huge into that world really.
Okay. Number 2, what has been the toughest thing about all this media attention that you've been getting as the coach of the Waterdogs, whether it be the draft or doing interviews like this even?
Yeah, I mean the toughest thing really is just you know, I was pretty inept with the whole social media thing. So thank God for my wife. She understands that world and she has been very helpful. But just trying to play catch up there with all things social media has been a little bit new to me.
Awesome. Number 3, what has been your favorite venue to play or coach lacrosse at?
You know, playing in Byrd Stadium when I was in Maryland, I thought was really cool. I mean, obviously we played down at Homewood. I think Denver Stadium out there is spectacular. We played in the Horseshoe at Ohio State, and then obviously in Michigan's football stadium. And then, you know, one time at Fairfield, we played up at Rentschler Field, which is UConn Stadium. I thought that was pretty cool. So I know I just gave you a whole lengthy answer there. I don't know that I could differentiate one of those places, but a lot of cool venues, and I'm sure we'll have more of the same this summer. So that's an exciting part of this.
Yeah, no, a lot of variety there, and yeah, it looks like we had a few familiar lacrosse venues added to this schedule, but they're going to some different venues as well, like Minneapolis and Dallas, which are probably pretty exciting too. So yeah, the PLL is doing some cool stuff with their scheduling.
They got some smart people making those decisions, and they're, you know, obviously what they're doing in terms of kind of pairing certain cities with kind of youth tournaments that are in those cities around the same time. I love it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and really great for the sport at large.
No, I think so too. I think that's always been a dilemma, is getting a lot of these youth players to these games during the summer, because parents are bogged down with taking them to tournaments. So if you make it a little easier on them and pair them with these events, I think it's a no-brainer. Number 4, who is a coach that you've leaned on as a mentor during your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, Frank Fedorjaka and Sid Jameson, who I played for at Bucknell, Dave Cottle from Maryland. I mean, he's on the Mount Rushmore of coaches, just a wonderful man and coach. Bill Tierney, who I've never had the privilege of working with, but I love kind of how accessible he is to kind of young up and coming coaches. He's unbelievable. Same thing can be said for Coach Petramala. And then I'll give you a throwback. So when I was at Fairfield, I overlapped a little bit with Mike Walvogel, who was Coach Moran's assistant coach up at Cornell, and then was a longtime head coach at Yale before Coach Shea. And he's an unbelievable man, and just getting some time with him, that's something that I always really cherished.
Awesome, yeah, a lot of good names on that list, a lot of established coaches, so I like it. And then going off the coaching theme, which PLL coach of one of the other 6 teams are you looking forward to coaching against the most this summer?
I mean, it's kind of a loaded question there. I've known all of these guys kind of at different levels, and I don't know that there's one coach or team that we're looking at as a real rivalry game. I just think it's an uber competitive league where everybody's trying to kind of beat the guy that they're standing across from. So we're going to be trying to do that with whoever we compete against, and they're going to be trying to do the exact same thing to us. And we're the new guy to the block here, so I expect us to get everybody's best shot. Awesome.
That's the lacrosse questions. Now for the off-the-field stuff. The first one I'll ask is, who is a non-lacrosse coach that you really admire and kind of, maybe even take aspects of when coaching yourself?
God, I've read a lot of those books, the John Wooden stuff, the Pat Summitt stuff, the Bill Belichick stuff, Parcells. God, I mean, I'm an Urban Meyer fan. So yeah, all those coaches. I mean, I think anybody who has kind of emerged at the top of their respective sport, I mean, I think you can kind of pluck some really valuable stuff from.
Awesome. And what are some hobbies or activities you enjoy doing when you're not coaching lacrosse?
Spending time with my family. I mean, I kind of mentioned Kate, my wife, and we got 2 little ladies, Kenzie and Tegan, and they're everything to me. So I just like spending time around them.
Awesome. What are some of your favorite spots to go in Fairfield? Whether it's like a restaurant or just a place to go and visit.
Yeah, geez, there's a couple good spots. Local is a great spot. Centro is a great spot. Yeah, Craft 260. There's a bunch of really good spots there that are just kind of just American, kind of good craft beer spots, and they can allow the kiddies to run around and Kate and I to have a good meal and a cocktail. So those are some good spots there.
Awesome. And that kind of goes into number 4. What is your favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
I like to grill, so we'll kind of do that plenty during the summer and just let the kiddies run around the backyard. Kate is very good in the kitchen, but we both have pretty good schedules, so there's some takeout, and sometimes we'll just kind of look for an excuse to get the kids out of the house for a couple hours. So we actually had them out at Hibachi last night, which was a lot of fun. And then, I guess if I was going to the chair and I had one meal left, I'd probably keep it pretty traditional and just go surf and turf, and for dessert maybe take on a couple cannolis. Big cannoli guy. Yeah.
Awesome. And then number 5 of the off the field questions: what's a book on your bookshelf that you've read or are reading right now, or it can be a podcast that you like to listen to that you'd recommend to one of your players or fellow coaches?
Yeah, 2 books. There's one called Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's a great book. It's a quick read, maybe 100 pages, but it's all about kind of becoming great at the process. And then there's another one called The Captain Class. Which,
I love that book.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people kind of in the coaching world have read that one. But those are 2 as of late. But there's one called Make Your Bed. That's a really good one. There's a lot of good kind of coaching books that I've come across that I think coaches who are really any good at what they do, you're constantly trying to just improve, and you got to start with yourself. So I enjoy that stuff for sure.
Yeah, no, I'll have to check out the Chopped Wood Carry Water one. I haven't read that one. Captain Class, though, one is excellent. It's interesting how he goes into the little idiosyncrasies of what make these captains, who they are, that you really don't expect, kind of unconventional. So I really enjoyed that one.
No doubt about it. And they're not all the same. Like, there's a lot of different ways to kind of lead, and I think it starts with just kind of being yourself. So
yep.
A lot of good stuff out there for sure.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great, Coach Copelan. I really appreciate your time. One question I will like to end on that we ask all our coaches and players: what is some advice that you have for a young coach that is one day looking to coach lacrosse professionally?
It's kind of what I just said, and I got this from Coach Cottle, who I mentioned was one of my mentors. But he always says, if you stay the same, you get worse. And I've always really taken that to heart. And the guys that I've coached have heard me say it, ad nauseum. You constantly need to go ahead and improve, because people around you are improving. So if you're just staying the same and you're kind of resting on your laurels, people are going right past you. And yeah, that's something that I've always tried to live by.
That's great. No, we really appreciate that advice and the time that you spent with us, Coach Copelan. Thank you again for joining us on the podcast. We look forward to seeing what Waterdogs do in year 1.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free, such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.